Cashless policy. House of Representatives and Central Bank of Nigeria find middle ground. Bills to establish training institutions for personnel of the Federal Road Safety Commission gather momentum. And House investigates alleged sale of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's Bonny Light crude. There seems to be some agreement between the House of Representatives and the Central Bank of Nigeria on implementation of the cashless policy, and that's following the CBN governor's visit to the Green Chamber. Hello and welcome to you and your reps on the NTA. I am Victor Azo. The House of Representatives has approved President Muhammadu Buhari's request for a restructure of 1 trillion naira additional from the Ways and Means advances to enable implementation of the 2022 supplementary budget. National Assembly correspondent Lamia Ali reports that the approval is to address the effects of last year's flood on roads and water infrastructure, agriculture, and completion of some critical ongoing projects.
The approval is as recommended by the House Joint Committees on Finance, Banking and Currency and that of AIDS, Loans and Debt Management.
The component of the request, that is the additional 1 trillion, which has clearly been earmarked to fund the 2022 supplementary budget, needs to be urgently considered. This is in consideration of the fact that the budget is pre-built to elapse by March 31st, 2023.
In the case of the larger part of the Ways and Means advances amounting to 22.7 trillion naira, the lawmakers resolved that a detailed and thorough submission is required from the executive through further engagement with the joint committees. The Ways and Means advances are loan facilities made available by the Central Bank of Nigeria to the government to finance budget shortfalls. Meanwhile, the House has approved the recommendations of the ad hoc committee set up to engage the Central Bank of Nigeria and commercial banks following developments on the implementation of the cashless policy.
The CBN, as a regulator, should restore over-the-counter transactions and increase the withdrawal limit at the ATMs in line with the cashless withdrawal policy.
The House directs the CBN governor to put to effect the provisions of Section 23, which is to the fact that the currency does not lose its value.
The old note will continue to be redeemable even after the expiration of the deadline.
The only thing that is not redeemable is a mutilated, destroyed, or lost or imperfect currency naira note, not an old note. And I thought it was important that I make that point, so that Nigerians it will also lessen the panic. It will lessen the panic in the system.
7 bills were read for the third time and passed, while the bill to establish Federal Medical Center Daura, Katsina State passed second reading. Plenary has been adjourned to 28 February 2023.
You and your reps later engaged Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Mohammed Tahir Monguno, on fallout of the meeting between the CBN governor and the House ad hoc committee on the redesign of 3 naira notes.
The outcome of the interaction of the ad hoc committee of the House with the CBN governor today is that the CBN governor concurred with the very clear and unambiguous provisions of Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act itself, that the old naira notes will continue to be redeemable so long as they exist without any deadline placed on it. And that is the very clear and unambiguous provision of the law, that so long as the old naira note exists, it should continue to be redeemable. But the central bank, through their own operations, they will continue to morph it off as they come into the banking system. They will continue to morph it off. So he has agreed that the deadline, even after 17th, will be extended, and then the clear and unambiguous provisions of Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act will be jealously guarded and protected, and it will be allowed to take its full course, because that provision is very clear and unambiguous. He has agreed that the letters and spirit of Section 20, subsection 3 of the Civilian Act will be allowed to take its full course. That brings into closure the issue of Nigerians that could not be able to redeem the old Naira notes to the new Naira notes within the time frame given to them. And he has also agreed that with regard to the issue of cashless policy, of that is withdrawal of certain amount of money over the counter, that one will also be looked into and then improved upon as time goes on. So I think it has finally brought into closure all the issues, all the contending issues that is worrying Nigerians with regard to the issue of Naira redesign and cashless policy to closure. And in order to properly oversight that aspect, particularly the operation of Section 20, subsection 3, we have extended the mandate of the committee, the ad hoc committee, to continue to interface with the CVN so that that policy or the very clear and unambiguous provision of the law will be implemented to the latter without let or hindrance.
Well, some other members seem to think differently still. Representative Abubakar Fulata chairs the Rules and Business Committee, while Representative Tobi Okechukwu is Deputy Minority Leader of the House. Let's get their views.
The cashless policy is a very, very serious challenge. It's a very serious challenge. It was misconceived. It was everything about the cashless policy as it is wrong. The cashless policy is supposed to depend entirely on technology of the internet, very good telephone services, which are not available. Hardly, maybe with the exception of Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano, you can hardly get a very good 4G service anywhere. In my constituency, apart from the fact that there are no telephone services, there is not a single bank facility. There is no single, in all my 3 local governments, there is not a single bank. Therefore, how do you expect people who don't have a bank, who don't have accounts, who don't have telephones to key into a cashless policy? Now, ordinarily, this policy, no matter how it was conceived, ought to have taken time. You stagger it. There is no country in the world where you bring in a policy, especially as regards to changing currency, and you expect it to work immediately. Currencies are supposed to be legal tender, regardless of the year it was printed. You are supposed to present it at any time. Whenever it is presented, it's supposed to be accepted and redeemed in its full value. Therefore, it's very surprising that this policy is being executed at this very critical time. No matter the intention, maybe there are arguments that it was intended to deal with money launderers, supposed to deal with kidnappers who collect ransom for this. Maybe it was also argued that it was aimed at politicians who have stashed a lot of money that to be used for vote buying. In all this, money used by politicians for elections are not produced by one single person. In 2015, I could remember, ordinary people donated money. We sold credit cards for phone calls to ordinary people who purchased it. That was how money was raised for Mr. President, President Muhammad Buhari, for his campaigns. I don't know how, and the money is not used for vote buying. It's used for logistics. What are the logistics? We have a lot of canvassers. We pay them to go and canvass for votes. They have family, they have children, they have to eat. We give them to go and canvass for them. We have agents who take care of the ballot boxes to make sure that we are not rigged out. They leave their homes from morning to night. Sometimes they sleep over in that place to make sure that we win those elections. How can we leave those people without food, without water? So all this money that politicians use is not used for vote buying. It's used for facilitators, party agents that are supposed to protect the interests of the state. But whatever consumption that was made with regards to money in the hands of politicians, it was actually misplaced. It's really unfortunate, and as you can see, and it's outside the law completely.
It is expected to do more good because once you have less cash in the system, you can operate more efficiently. You can also trace transactions. It will also be, you are not printing more money because the cost of printing is very expensive. So if you are not doing all that and you're transferring by wire, it means you just have, the exposure to risk will be there. There are reasons why cashless policy is good, but it doesn't mean you won't have cash. If you have a limit to what somebody can withdraw, then it should be available. You don't say I have a limit of 20,000, I can't withdraw up to 20. It's not available. You don't say I have a limit of 100 and I can't even withdraw that. That is the challenge we have now. And the infrastructure we have in the rural communities to do that is absent. So my expectation is that let it be that you have sufficient supply, but you still control what goes into the public domain. You don't starve people and say you are doing cashless policy. You want to do ATM, the POS is not working and all that. So there is a modicum of liquidity we expect in the system, which will guarantee that people don't get restive. It's a lot of waste of man hours when you have an armada of Nigerians in the banks, a number of them, 50, 100 people lined up in the POS, and then people are not able to withdraw money, and then you see people in social media who are doing ceremonies and they have bundles and they are throwing them. It's imprudent on the part of the banking system. It's imprudent on the part of the regulator. And it's imprudent on the part of the regime that is not able to control its officers.
And the deputy minority leader also expressed his views on the persistent fuel scarcity across the country.
It's a symptom of an underlying problem, and what you do is to find out what the problem is and cut it off. Not even enough consumption of the fuel is being done. You have maximally subsidized petroleum products to the tune of half a year of 6-point-something trillion. You put 6-point-something trillion in capital budget, capital expenditure, it will develop this country. It will get most of the roads in this country asphalted. But you are not even able to subsidize and import. It's just pure importation is your problem. So from all indications, we simply have to begin to produce refined petroleum products so that we can deal with our problems. We have a 5,000 kilometer grid pipeline in this country. It's been rendered useless. You no longer hear about depots. There were times we had depots. Nigerians have a memory problem, selective amnesia. The depot managers were like kings. People have forgotten the idea of depots. These pipelines we are transporting petroleum products to those places. Any tanker has no business traveling from Lagos to the north or traveling from Lagos to the east. You only have to go to the depot and supply to town. So the situation has become so chaotic that people don't even understand what the issues are anymore.
Meanwhile, having in place a robust and professional road traffic administration is essential for Nigeria to move forward from the current ranking of 54th in the world on the list of road accidents. The House of Representatives invited stakeholders for inputs as it works on bills to establish training institutions for personnel of the Federal Road Safety Commission.
Nigeria's Federal Road Safety Commission is a trailblazer in Africa in terms of road traffic management, as affirmed by the House Committee on Road Safety. But the country's share of 2.82% of global deaths from road accidents out of the estimate on the records of the World Health Organization is of concern to stakeholders.
The committee is working on a motion to curb the menace of recurring obstructions caused by articulated vehicles on our highways.
If the government did not make any effort to see that they stop this killing because of extortion, many of these things, it is because of the extortion.
Submissions at this public hearing on bills to establish training institutions for the FRSC were supportive of the initiative.
The essence of these schools is to ensure that we train our personnel. The FRSC has a staff strength currently of about 27,000 personnel, with about 30,000 special marshals also who are volunteers. So we felt that we need these institutions.
The establishment of the institutions would avail officers and marshals of the Corps and interested members of the public opportunity for capacity building.
Have one central bill that will accommodate all these things with specification of designated institutions will serve the purpose.
Some stakeholders, like the Ministry of Works and Housing, faulted the timing and some provisions in the bill.
The timing is not right. Now, as the government is presently looking for ways of reducing recurrent budgets.
If NIPS is one of the criteria that we make somebody appointed to head these institutions, I think it should remain there.
One unanimous opinion as the engagement was that no effort should be spared to prevent road crashes, which mainly occur due to human error, vehicle failure, and bad roads and weather conditions.
And head of the National Central Bureau of Interpol in Nigeria, AIG Garba Baba Umar, has appeared before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating alleged sale of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's Bonny Light crude, where he made submissions on alleged plots to intimidate whistleblowers on the matter.
This committee of the House was inaugurated on 29th of December last year, with the mandate to investigate the alleged illegal sale of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's crude to China in 2015. Mark Billa, the chairman, wants the head of National Central Bureau of Interpol in Nigeria to clarify allegations of intimidation against the whistleblowers.
When those individuals, those whistleblowers, approached the committee, we found out that a week or more afterwards, your department, the NCB of the Interpol, wrote to two of those individuals, which we do not consider to be a coincidence. Why is it that it is when they approach this committee to give them evidence about what happened that the Interpol suddenly started inviting them
have the avenue.
AIG Garba, speaking under oath, maintained that Interpol is not investigating the whistleblowers, but National Central Bureau is only assisting in identifying them since there was a request from the Ministry of Justice with requisite document.
Mr. Chairman, I will not, and I repeat, I will never allow anybody to use me by any means. It's a request, Chairman. Probably those who may be able to answer are those who investigated the matter and the Office of the Attorney General, who wrote to me requesting for assistance. They wrote an attached document, and those are the ones that can answer all these questions they are asking, Mr. Chairman.
The committee, however, insists that the concerned persons are not on the run and requested for certified true copy of the letter to NCB from the Federal Director of Public Prosecution.
So, what is a legislative session? Let's get answers from Chair of the House Committee on Rules and Business, and that's on legislative terms and tools segment.
Every assembly have 4 sessions every year, making a total of, I think, 12 months. Excluding weekends, public holidays. So by the end of each session, a report is compiled detailing the activities of the House for that particular session, that particular year. So a session is made up of, I think, 12 months of activities of the House.
As the general election inches closer, you and your reps asked the member representing the Birniwa Guri Kirikasama Federal Constituency, Hassan Fulata, to share his experiences so far on the campaign trail.
My state, which is Jigawa State, and my constituency, they are all essentially APC dominant areas. As far as the support base is concerned, we thank God, people are supportive, and they have appreciated the services we've been able to render so far. However, there are a lot of challenges. Up to now, people do not understand the difference between a member of House of Representatives and a local government chairman and a governor. They're expecting members of the legislature to offer those services that rightly belong to the executive arm of government. They would expect us to do roads, they would expect us to provide electricity, they will expect us to provide water, they will expect us to do a lot of things that ordinarily are the functions of the executive. So this is the main challenge, ignorance of the duties of the legislature.
And that has been you and your reps for this week. Thanks for your time. Do endeavor to get your permanent voter card and exercise your franchise in due time. I am Victor, as we'll see you next time.